Okay, welcome to my webinar, Starting a Farm from Scratch, a three-part webinar series. This is part one, which is Intro to Land Assessment. The theme for this series is that you are driving through a beautiful valley and your car breaks down, you look around, and you realize this is where I want to farm and this is what I want to do. And so I'm going to help you guys find a piece of land that hopefully is not only beautiful but has soil that's suitable for agricultural production, land that is close to market, and I'm going to help you calculate your shipping costs of moving produce from your land to market. Obviously, you see something that looks like this here on the desktop. It's a recording, so we're not worried about that. And who am I? My name is Matthew Mccue. I'm an Army veteran, Operation Iraqi Freedom infantry veteran, and a returned Peace Corps volunteer. Getting into agriculture was really my opportunity to move from kind of the military to a really gratifying and fun civilian profession. I'm currently the owner-operator of Shooting Star Organic Farm and CSA in Fairfield, although we are now transitioning from CSA into slightly more profitable, riskier crops. I have 10 years of farming experience. That includes farming in Africa, millet and grain, multiple years doing vegetable farming, as well as a good degree of extension agent helping farmers in developing countries mostly. I grow organic vegetables, absolutely love them, 35 different kinds, and we ship all over the Bay Area, and we'll talk about that. I have a business, BS in business management, did that night school while I was farming, so farming gave me enough stability and I was close enough to a local university to do that. And I'm almost done with my master's in international agricultural development. I absolutely love education. I consider myself a lifelong learner. I want to be a master in not only the school of hard knocks, but just school in general, I guess. All right. What you need when you're looking for a piece of land, there's these kind of, I would say, three main factors you should really be concentrating on, and that's good soil, good water, and access to markets. Obviously, the good soil, I mean that's something that is almost kind of, oh yeah, of course I want good soil and good water. But I think sometimes people, especially newer farmers, go with one of these. Either they go with an access to market and forget about good soil and good water, or they focus too much on soil and water, and then they have nowhere to sell their produce. So the whole concept of good soil is the better the soil, the less it's going to cost to grow on that particular farm. So the better the soil is, the less expensive it's going to be to operate. So just remember that. And farming is a business, so everything comes down to income minus cost equals profit. Ways you can increase your profit are lowering your costs and increasing your income, and that will make profit. So I want you guys to get in the mindset of being an agricultural detective. You've heard of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? It was an old show where they sent a bunch of kids looking around the world studying for Carmen Sandiego, who was a mysterious person that everybody was trying to find. In this case, we're asking where in the world is the perfect farm. So I want you guys to consider yourself detectives, gumshoes, I might even add. Markets decide everything. And so even to think about where your farm is going to be, you want to start with thinking about markets. Is there a market for fresh vegetables or whatever crop you're going to grow? You have to look at the markets and observe that, and observe the area. Who is the potential competition in the area? what are they growing when you go to the farmer's market? Do you see stuff that there's just tons in there? Like, for instance, jalapenos. Are they selling jalapenos absolutely cheap? If they're selling jalapenos too cheap at farmer's markets and at grocery stores, look at it and say, oh, well, maybe somebody somewhere is producing a lot of jalapenos, so maybe we should grow something like a specialty sweet pepper, something that we can sell for more. Speak to the competition. Believe it or not, farming is a community, especially in the sustainable agriculture community, and just in general. And people will respond, and older farmers understand that younger farmers need to get in the game. And when farmers are at farmers markets, they also understand that you need a certain critical mass of farmers in order to have a successful farmers market. And so I've have many competitors I've spoken to and I'm friends with, and have even been to rock concerts with. And so it is a close-knit community, and most of the competition will actually be nice to you and share trials and tribulations as well as tips to help you become more successful. Because all in all, farmers want to help other farmers become successful. What do farmers market customers say they want more of? Look around, and a lot of it's region specific, because certain producers fill in one niche and grow certain things while others maybe lag behind. Find space in the market where people are lagging behind and consider growing those products. And again, everywhere you go, it's going to be different, so you have to do this research. What is missing on our representative market? We kind of covered that. And what are the prices now? What were the prices like 3 years ago? So try to figure out, through just asking questions and dealing with wholesalers, what prices were 3 years ago. That way you can find which crops are doing better, which crops are becoming more expensive, and which crops are staying the same or even becoming less expensive. Because quite frankly, you want to grow crops that are on a trend to become more expensive. So as you progress in time, you're going to get paid more and more. If you choose a crop that is becoming less profitable over time or less expensive over time, as you progress your farm system, you're going to earn less and less. So that research is absolutely essential. Can you produce a better product? Usually the best way to produce a better product, at least in the fresh vegetable industry, is to shorten your supply chain. That way, say kale, for instance, these nice greens, spend less time sitting in a refrigerator, or essentially spend less time wilting and getting old. The closer you are to market, the better you are. Input prices, here an example of a few key inputs. And so we have long-term hour labor projection. This is one idea that I made this a few years ago, and basically I looked at it and I said, okay, judge on my projection, judge on the 20 years previous to this. I looked at labor prices and talked to old farmers and things like that. I said that labor was going to steadily increase. There's a lot of political things going on. Migrant laborers are going to disappear. So what's going to happen after that is labor is going to become more and more expensive as employers become more and more desperate to fill those jobs, right? And so these labor prices may very well increase a lot quicker, so we'll have a steeper line. And so labor prices in California anyway are going to increase probably a little faster than I have on this chart. There's a water price projection per acre foot, and that's off of a Solano Irrigation District, which is our local irrigation district. I actually think that might be fairly accurate. They've been going up solidly, and if the drought comes back, then prices might increase a little bit more. If it stays wet, then of course prices might stay the same or just increase a lot more slowly. And then we have all of our input costs, where I put them all together and look at the cost projection. And this is important, again, to look at, because labor per hour is all regional, and water price is regional as well. So for instance, the laborers that I have to hire, I'm competing with vineyards and landscapers. You might be in a region where there's not a lot of other work, so you don't have a lot of competition for labor, and you can offer a lower per hour price per labor, which makes your business more profitable. This is a picture of the glory hole in Lake Berryessa, and this is literally where our irrigation water comes from, this lake. So I wanted to show you guys that, and the double meaning of you don't want your money to go down the drain. Output prices, kind of the same deal. Tomato price, historical and predicted. Your region is going to be different depending on how many growers are in the region, especially for the fresh stuff. But it's good to look at historical prices and kind of and see where the prices are going. According to this, I think tomatoes are going to slowly increase in price, as well as winter squash and sweet corn. Now, things could happen. Some other supplier could come in and could disrupt this and essentially lower prices and lower the tomato price. But you definitely want to watch these trends and especially look for prices that look just about even over the last 10 years per se. Also, take into mind inflation. As inflation occurs, that could skew what the real price of these items are. Okay, problems to resolve. We talked a little bit about labor scarcity, unknown ability to sell produce, and that really comes to locations of markets as well as access to those markets, getting into markets, developing relationships with people who can buy. You definitely don't want to be putting things in the ground that you don't have a real plan to sell. Unknown future competition. If you find a nice little sweet spot close to markets, probably other people are looking and want to get in the game too. So to keep that in mind. Possibly unrealistic revenue expectations. In the third webinar series, we are going to cover that very thoroughly, how to get a good revenue expectation. So definitely we'll cover that. And then unforeseen expenses. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what kind of disaster is going to happen. Also has to do with location, but sometimes you just have to go for it. And then you can look at this later. A labor key percentage of the crop's total production costs is higher labor. It looks like fruit's really high, followed by nursery products and vegetables. And then you have corn at the very bottom, soybeans and cattle. So that can give you an idea of where you might spend more money in shipping, but be in a place where you can grow a crop that has much less labor. And so there's a lot of options for that. Questions? Okay. Now, this is the Web Soil Survey. And as you can see, we have the website here. And the amazing thing about this program is it has layer maps. It's a GIS system that essentially has little layers where what each soil type is, and it'll say when you zoom in enough. And then on the left-hand side, it has a kind of a map key to say what kind of soils there are. And you can click on the particular title of the soil and get a description as well as what classification that soil is to find out really if it's the best soil, if it's class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. You want the lower the number, the better the soil. So class 1 soil is the best soil there is. So if you find a place with class 1 soil, you're good to go. And Web Soil Survey home. Here we are. So how do we use the Web Soil Survey? And I want you guys to see this. And it's really easy. If you forget about this, we have the directions right here. Use the Area of Interest tab to define your area of interest, otherwise known as the AOI. Click the soil map to view and print the soil map and detailed descriptions of the soils in your area of interest. And then you have the Soil Data Explorer tab, so you can save items, print reports, and then you can use the shopping cart, which is free to get a custom printable report on your soil. So we start with hitting the green button, Start Web Soil Survey. Start new session, please. Okay. Now, welcome. There's the United States, right? So you're not gonna. So there's this thing has mapped out the entire United States. I believe there's soil maps for Hawaii as well as even the Virgin Islands. So it's kind of amazing. So quick navigation. We're going to go to Soil Survey Area. And this is your area of interest. Now what state? We're going to go to my favorite state is California. I mean, I live there. Sorry guys. I'm not trying to Californicate all of you. And then the county, we're going to go to a county that I farm in, Solano County. Bam. So we've selected state California and then Solano County, and then this pops up, oh look, Solano County, California, and we can click right here. Bam, we've clicked on Solano County area. I'll just go ahead and show survey areas in map, and then now I click set AOI. You don't have to click on this, but I do. So set AOI. Bam. And here we go. I have created my area of interest. And from here, I can zoom in to a specific area. This is not the newest program in the world. I'm sure in a couple years somebody will come up with something much, much better. But this is what we have. Okay, I'm going to minus out of that a little bit. Okay, now we're talking. And then you have the hand that you can move stuff around. Here we are. So we're zoomed in onto a little agricultural area. And now we go to soil map. And here we are. And as you can see, there's all these little lines, and it tells exactly what the soil type is. So we'll zoom out just a little bit to give you an idea. So in any area, you can see that there's a lot of different soils around. This is the D1, F2. Notice these are on hills. And so when you have a hilly area, your classification of soil tends to go down because it's just more expensive and harder to farm. So here's a hill. But you go into the flat, and then you have this soil called, what is this? YS. So if you have any questions about what kind of soil it is, or any questions about it, you see YS. So now we see YS there. So I look on this side, and I click all the way down. It is in alphabetical order to YS, which says, oh wow, that is a YOLO silty clay loam 0 to 2% slopes. So that would be extremely flat YOLO silty clay loam. And sure enough, right here we have a description of YOLO silty clay loam. Map unit composition, similar soils 85%. Description, the most important thing for me is the interpretive groups, okay? And it'll say land capacity classification. When it's irrigated, it's class 1 soil. So if you put water on it, this is prime farmland soil. Land capacity when you don't irrigate is class 4. Don't worry too much about that. You're probably going to be watering unless you try to do a rain-fed system, which doesn't happen out in California, but where you guys are, you will definitely want to consider that. But land capacity classification is irrigated class 1 soil. So we know that the YOLO silty clay loam is a class 1 soil, so we should definitely consider farming it if we get a hold of this property. So there's how you find a really good soil classification with this. And if you have more questions about it, you take the YOLO silty, you take the soil classification report, and you can take it to your local county agricultural extension agent or service, and they can talk to you about all the things that have been farmed. And there's a lot of information out there to find out exactly what you can farm best on the YOLO silty clay loam. There's also different classifications. Some soils drain, some soils not, and this puts it all in there. So there's a lot of information you can get from this. And so I recommend that you absolutely use the web soil survey. Okay, go through here. There we are. So there's a web soil survey. You guys get an idea of that. So after you've found that perfect piece of land, remember it's all in relation to markets. And one of the reasons why we chose 5082 Gordon Valley Road was not just because of the soil and the fact that it has an irrigation district. We did it because we have this is our triangle of death as far as marketing goes for Shooting Star CSA. So we're right here, right? and then we have Vallejo, Walnut Creek, Oakland, San Francisco, and Richmond right in our heels, essentially. The distance from 5082 Gordon Valley Road all the way to San Francisco is, honestly, it comes out to about 50 or 60 miles. It takes us an hour to get there. And so basically we have these huge freeways and roads, solid, nice roads, that we just cruise our vegetables into all of these different towns. And we can just basically essentially we do just a giant loop delivering vegetables on delivery day. Every delivery you make needs to count. Every time you drive the truck, it needs to be filled. So just remember that as you go, and you want to be very strategic about this. Get as close to your markets as you can without sacrificing too much production. How far can my farm be from markets? How many miles away is your field from a market? How long does it take you to make the drive? Which is important because if you have really windy roads, it will take you longer and you'll have more driver fatigue. How many times per week are you delivering to market? You want to limit the number of deliveries you make, even if it means getting larger trucks. The less time you're on the road, the better. I cannot stress this enough. And when are you planning to make the drive? Are you doing it at 5 in the morning? And if you are driving at 4 or 5 in the morning, then you shouldn't be staying up till 11 or 12 at night preparing trucks. You should plan this so you do it earlier so you actually get enough sleep. Okay, example. I have a market 100 miles away. So here's an equation that you can use that's definitely worth doing to find out actually how much it's going to cost you to ship your produce for the year. So it's number of miles per trip times cost of gas per mile plus number of miles per trip times cost of maintenance per mile plus number of hours of trip times cost per hour of driver. That's your labor of driving if you hire a driver. And then that's times number of trips per year. And those are your actual variable costs. And then we have fixed costs, which is annual costs of auto insurance plus annual costs of delivery truck van. Now, when we did the annual cost of delivery truck van, I assumed that through the year, either you bought the van for, I guess, $3,200, or you paid that much in monthly payments for the van. So when you buy your van, that's going to be a big thing. And maintenance is always a big thing too. Really, the older vehicle you get, the more you're going to spend on maintaining it. But sometimes there can be a real sweet spot that it's worth it to buy an older vehicle. If you compare getting an older van and you pay $2,000 for maintenance rather than you get a brand new van that you're paying a few $100s a month and then paying $3,000 for maintenance per year. So keep that in mind. So all that equals your cost of transportation. Inputs. We're assuming you're 100 miles away, right? And so if you're 100 miles away, you have to drive to your market and then you have to drive back. So you're going to be driving 200 miles. So I did a few calculations. So your gas maybe would equal $41 a trip. As an example, maintenance $50 a trip, labor $85 a trip, total operation cost per trip is $176 times, let's just say you make 45 trips a year, and so that comes out to $7,900, and that's your variable costs. Those are your actual costs of operating the vehicle, but that's in addition. You also have to add on your van costs. It's assuming you spent $3,800 either to buy the van or you spent that much money in van payments, and auto insurance $1,200. The maintenance is, imagine you spend about $2,200 a year per maintenance. So here's a little bit more detail. 200 miles times 350 a gallon times 17 miles per gallon. If you go through all of these, go through this equation and plug your numbers in, you're going to find out how much it's actually going to cost you. So don't take my word for it. Go check out how much gas is going to be. Think about how much, try to guess about how much gas is going to be in the summertime. And so out here, the gas is pretty expensive. That's why I put it at 350. 5 hours of labor. I assume 5 hours of labor, and I'm paying this labor $16.50. Honestly, in the Bay Area, that's almost the low end, especially with a job that requires some amount of risk and skill, such as driving. And then 45 trips a year. All that equals $12,290. So according to my calculation, if I have a market 100 miles away, I'm going to pay $12,290 per year to do this. Yeah, so there it is. So that is a cost, and it's worth calculating. And so the further you are away from your market, the more you're going to spend in labor, in maintenance, and gas, of course. What's next? You found this an area that is really great, that's close to markets, and you really want to do it, and it has good soil and good water. So it's time to actually knock on doors. I cannot stress enough the value of face-to-face time when it comes to dealing with landowners. There's a lot of lists. California Farm Link is great. They have a lot of for lease and for sale farm lists, and also there's farm links all over the country. But the main thing, the most important thing, is they can't get everywhere. They cannot get to every single farmer who might be considering leasing land or selling land. And so you're going to have to do, especially across the country, I'm sure farm links are not quite as developed as they are in California. In all states, some states probably more developed, some states not as much. But even so, even the best farm link organization that connects potential leasers with land can't find everybody. So you find an area with good soil, and you look and you see an empty lot or a house with land that doesn't look like it's been farmed in a little bit. Knock on the door. Don't worry about that shotgun. I think people are really afraid of that kind of personal connection. It's just going to be intimidating to walk onto somebody's farm and knock on the door. But if you're clear with your intentions, people are really going to be all about it. Keep markets in mind. Everything you do, keep markets in mind and distance to markets. And get to know irrigation district managers. There's irrigation districts across the country, and every county has somebody who knows a lot about water and what's going on with water. If you know the irrigation district managers, they also know what pieces of land are being used and what pieces of land are not being used. They know if a piece of land has been fallow for 2 years, they're going to know because they're having to check pipes for irrigation districts and keep ditches clean next to that land, so they see it all the time. So those are the people you need to speak to. You found your valley, bam, there it is. It's beautiful, and I have another step-by-step approach to further get this in your mind, that you can do this kind of on your own. Knock on doors, introduce yourself, be clear of your intentions, but do not make any promises. Ask to conduct soil and water analysis. It will show that you are serious about what you do. Ask about the history of the land and when it was last farmed. Step 2, research. Ask neighbors about the property and its owners. There's usually plenty of gossip to go around. Really, neighbors don't ever stop talking, and you can find some valuable information. Sometimes you can figure out what's been sprayed even on a particular piece of land. Step 3, prepare the lease agreement. Any farm link agencies can help you. Preparing a good lease agreement is really important. Anything worth being said should be in writing. I'm going to say that again. Anything and everything worth being said, any agreement that involves a handshake should also be in writing. You're not being pushy by getting things in writing. It's a good thing. The same thing with soil tests. Ask to conduct soil and water analysis. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. Be like, can I do a soil test on your farm to see what the soil is looking like, to see if it's suitable? If people are against you, if they freak out that you want to do a soil test, they probably really don't want to lease the land anyway, so you should go to somebody else, or explain to them how important it is and the fact that you're not invading their privacy. I've never had a problem with that. I've done lots of soil testing on a lot of lands, and no landowner has ever gotten creeped out by it. And then step 4, start farming. Yeah, it's time to get going. Here's a couple of examples of irrigation district. These are all in California. Again, the California-centric nature of this presentation has to do with the fact that I live here. However, a lot of this stuff is really universal. There are irrigation districts all over the country, especially all over the Southwest, and the rules are the same anywhere you go, where you should get out there, meet irrigation districts, and the idea is to find people who know the land, and irrigation district managers are huge on that. So South San Joaquin Irrigation District, Solano Irrigation District, and Imperial Irrigation District are all districts. Sometimes they have canals going right through, sometimes they have pipes that are kind of network across the land. So get to know them, figure it out, and try to get involved in water. Questions? And that is the end of my presentation. To wrap it up, I would say don't be afraid to knock on doors. Use the web soil survey. Use it. It's really good, and it will save you so much heartache, and because you don't want to develop a relationship with a potential landowner and then you find out that the soil is just too heavy, just not suitable for what you want to do and what you want to grow. Markets decide everything. Don't be afraid to decide markets. And of course, interact with local people, neighbors, and irrigation district managers and workers. And that concludes, oh, one more thing, Homegrown by Heroes. Please get on the Farmer Veteran Coalition website and sign up for Homegrown by Heroes. Even if you haven't produced anything yet and you just plan on producing, you can still sign up for the Homegrown by Heroes label. It's free, and it makes our organization much more able to do things like this webinar and outreach because it's a big deal that we have these Homegrown by Heroes label. There's strength. Join Homegrown by Heroes. Thank you very much.